The San Francisco evening was crisp, with the familiar fog beginning to roll in from the bay. Outside Chase Center, the energy was electric as thousands of Golden State Warriors fans streamed toward the arena for what promised to be an unforgettable playoff game. The sound of excited chatter, car horns, and the distant thump of music from nearby sports bars created a symphony of anticipation that filled the Mission Bay air. 12-year-old Maya Johnson stood pressed against the cold metal barriers, her small fingers gripping the rails as she watched the sea of blue and gold jerseys flow past her. Her worn sneakers, hand-me-downs from her older brother, shifted nervously on the concrete as she clutched a crumpled piece of paper in her free hand. It was a homemade sign she'd spent hours crafting the night before, decorated with colorful markers and glitter glue. "Stephen Curry is my hero, from your biggest fan, Maya." Maya's grandmother, Dorothy, stood beside her, her weathered hands resting gently on the girl's shoulders. At 73, Dorothy had raised Maya since she was 4, after Maya's mother passed away from cancer, and her father, unable to cope with the loss, had disappeared from their lives. Dorothy worked double shifts as a hotel housekeeper just to make ends meet in their small Oakland apartment, and tonight represented months of saved quarters and dollar bills, their attempt to buy the cheapest tickets available. "Grandma, do you think we'll really get in?" Maya asked, her voice barely audible above the crowd noise. Her dark eyes, usually bright with hope, now reflected the anxiety that had been building in her chest all day. Dorothy squeezed her granddaughter's shoulders reassuringly. "Baby girl, I promised you we'd see Steph play for your birthday, and Dorothy Johnson doesn't break promises." But even as she spoke, Dorothy felt the weight of the envelope in her purse. The envelope containing their last $200, money that was supposed to cover groceries for the next 2 weeks. They approached the ticket window and Maya's heart raced with excitement. She could almost taste the arena popcorn, almost hear the crowd cheering as Curry sank another impossible three-pointer. She'd studied every one of his games on their old television, mimicking his shooting form in their apartment's tiny living room, dreaming of the day she might meet her hero. The ticket agent, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, barely looked up from his computer screen. "Sorry, folks, we're completely sold out. Have been for weeks." His words hit Maya like a physical blow, and she felt her carefully constructed dreams begin to crumble. "Please," Dorothy said, her voice carrying decades of quiet dignity. "This is for my granddaughter's birthday. She's never been to a game, and Stephen Curry means everything to her." She opened her purse, revealing the carefully counted bills. "I have $200. Isn't there anything available?" The agent's expression softened slightly as he looked at Maya's hopeful face, but he shook his head. "Ma'am, the cheapest tickets we had were $300 each, and they sold out this morning. I'm truly sorry." Maya felt the world tilt around her. The noise of the crowd seemed to fade as tears began to well up in her eyes. She looked down at her homemade sign, now feeling foolish and childish. Around them, other fans continued their excited chatter about the game, about Curry's recent performance, about their seats and their expectations, conversations that now felt like salt in her wounds. "It's okay, Grandma," Maya whispered, trying to be brave even as her voice cracked. "We can watch it on TV at home." But as they turned away from the ticket window, the tears she'd been holding back finally began to fall. She pressed her face against Dorothy's coat, feeling embarrassed by her disappointment and guilty that her grandmother had spent their grocery money on an impossible dream. Dorothy held her granddaughter close, her own eyes misting over. She'd worked so hard, saved every penny she could just to give Maya this one moment of joy. As they walked slowly away from the arena entrance, the sounds of celebration around them felt like a cruel reminder of what they couldn't afford, what they couldn't access, what remained forever just out of reach. Maya wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, trying to compose herself, but the disappointment was overwhelming. All around them, families were entering the arena, children Maya's age wearing expensive jerseys and carrying professional signs made by marketing companies. The contrast wasn't lost on her. The divide between her world and theirs felt as vast as the bay itself. As they reached the outer edge of the arena complex, Maya found a quiet spot near a decorative planter and sat down on the concrete, finally allowing herself to cry freely. The tears came in waves, tears of disappointment, frustration, and the acute awareness of her family's limitations. Dorothy sat beside her, rubbing gentle circles on her back, both of them trying to figure out how to salvage what was supposed to be a special birthday celebration. Stephen Curry adjusted his headphones and took a deep breath as his black SUV pulled up to the players' entrance at Chase Center. The pregame ritual was always the same. Arriving exactly 90 minutes before tip-off, going through his shooting routine, connecting with his teammates, and mentally preparing for the battle ahead. Tonight's playoff game against the Lakers carried extra weight. The series was tied 2-2, and the Warriors needed this home victory to avoid going back to Los Angeles in a precarious position. As his driver, Marcus, navigated through the controlled chaos of the arena's back entrance, Steph's mind was focused on the game plan. He'd spent the morning watching film, studying the Lakers' defensive adjustments, and working on the specific plays Coach Kerr wanted to emphasize. The weight of expectations, from the fans, the organization, his teammates, was something he'd carried for years, but it never got lighter. "Usual spot, Steph?" Marcus asked, slowing down near the secured entrance where team personnel were waiting to escort him inside. "Actually, let me walk from here," Steph said, surprising his driver. "I want to soak in the energy tonight. This crowd's going to be special." Marcus pulled over about 50 yards from the main entrance, in a less crowded area where Steph could make his way to the players' entrance without being immediately swarmed. As he stepped out of the vehicle, the San Francisco evening air hit him, carrying with it the familiar mix of anticipation and nervous energy that surrounded big games. Steph had always prided himself on staying connected to the fans, on remembering what it felt like to be a kid dreaming of moments like these. Despite his superstar status, he made it a point to acknowledge the people who supported the team, especially the young fans who reminded him of his own childhood spent in NBA arenas watching his father play. As he walked toward the arena, signing a few autographs for fans who spotted him, something caught his attention. Near a decorative planter, partially hidden from the main flow of foot traffic, he saw a young girl sitting on the concrete with an older woman beside her. Even from a distance, he could see that the girl was crying, not the tears of excitement he often saw from young fans, but deep, heartbroken sobs that seemed to come from a place of genuine disappointment. Steph's steps slowed. He'd learned over the years to trust his instincts about people, and something about this scene tugged at his heart. The girl looked to be about the same age as his own daughter Riley had been when she first started coming to games, and the protective way the older woman held her reminded him of his own grandmother's unconditional love. "Excuse me for a moment," he told his security detail, veering away from the direct path to the players' entrance. As he approached, he could see more details. The girl was black, probably around 12, wearing a Golden State Warriors t-shirt that looked like it had been washed and worn countless times. In her lap was a crumpled handmade sign that read, "Stephen Curry is my hero, from your biggest fan, Maya." The care and effort that had gone into making the sign was evident. Every letter carefully colored, small. Decorations added with obvious love and attention. The older woman noticed him first. Dorothy's eyes widened in recognition, but she didn't immediately speak, perhaps thinking she was seeing things. Maya continued crying, her face buried in her hands, unaware that the very person who'd inspired her homemade sign was now standing just a few feet away. "Hey there," Steph said gently, crouching down to Maya's eye level. His voice was warm and soft, the same tone he used with his own children when they were upset. "I'm Steph. I couldn't help but notice you seemed sad. Is everything okay?" Maya's head shot up, her tear-stained face showing complete shock. For a moment she couldn't speak, couldn't process that Stephen Curry, her hero, the player she watched religiously, the person whose shooting form she practiced every day, was actually there, talking to her. You're," she stammered, wiping her eyes quickly, embarrassed to be caught crying by her idol. Dorothy found her, voice first. "Mr. Curry, I'm Dorothy Johnson, and this is my granddaughter Maya. Today's her 12th birthday, and we tried to get tickets to see you play." Her voice carried the weight of their disappointment and the dignity of someone who'd worked hard for everything she'd ever had. Steph looked at the homemade sign again, noticing how Maya's name was written in careful, colorful letters. "Maya, that's a beautiful sign. Did you make this yourself?" Maya nodded, still in disbelief. "I worked on it all last night. I wanted to hold it up during the game so you could see it." Her voice was small, fragile, as if speaking too loudly might make this moment disappear. "Well, Maya," Steph said, sitting down on the concrete beside her, not caring about his expensive pre-game outfit. "Tell me about this sign. What made you want to make it?" The simple question, asked with genuine interest, opened a floodgate. Maya began talking about how she'd started watching basketball after her mother died, how Stephen Curry's story of overcoming doubts about his size and strength had inspired her, how she practiced his shooting form every day in their small apartment, and how she dreamed of maybe playing basketball herself someday. As Maya spoke, Steph listened intently, seeing himself reflected in her passion and determination. He remembered being counted out, being told he was too small, too slight to make it in the NBA. He remembered the importance of having heroes to look up to, people who proved that dreams could become reality with enough work and dedication. "Maya," he said when she finished, "can I tell you something? Some of the best fans I've ever met are the ones who make their own signs, who watch every game even when they can't be there in person. Your support means more to me than you know." But even as he spoke these words, Steph was already formulating a plan. He pulled out his phone and quickly sent a text to the team's guest relations manager. Then he looked back at Maya and Dorothy, both of whom were staring at him with a mixture of disbelief and hope. "Now, I have a game to play tonight," he said, standing up and brushing off his pants. "But I was wondering, would you two like to be my personal guests?" Maya's eyes went wide, and for a moment, she couldn't breathe. The words "personal guests" echoed in her mind, but they seemed too good to be true, too much like something from a dream she might wake up from at any moment. "What do you mean?" she whispered, afraid to hope too much. Steph smiled, the same genuine smile that had endeared him to millions of fans worldwide. "I mean, Maya, that I'd like you and your grandmother to watch tonight's game from some very special seats. Consider it a birthday present from me to you." Dorothy's hand flew to her chest, and she felt tears forming in her own eyes. In all her years of working multiple jobs, of struggling to provide for Maya, of watching other families enjoy luxuries they could never afford, she had never experienced such unexpected kindness from a stranger, let alone from someone as famous as Stephen Curry. "Mr. Curry," Dorothy said, her voice shaking with emotion, "we couldn't possibly. We don't have any way to repay you for something like that." Steph shook his head firmly. "Mrs. Johnson, the only payment I need is seeing Maya smile. Besides," he said, winking at Maya, "I have a feeling I'm going to play better tonight, knowing my biggest fan is watching." Within minutes, a team representative arrived. Sarah Martinez, the Warriors' guest relations manager, who had worked with the organization for over a decade and had seen Steph perform countless acts of kindness that never made the news. She greeted Maya and Dorothy warmly, as if welcoming old friends rather than surprised guests. "Ladies, if you'll come with me, we'll get you settled in," Sarah said, her professional demeanor mixed with genuine warmth. "Mr. Curry has requested that you be seated in the family section. Those are some of the best seats in the house." As they walked toward the arena entrance, Maya kept looking back at Steph, still unable to fully process what was happening. He was being escorted toward the players' entrance by his security team, but he turned back one more time. "Maya," he called out, "make sure you hold up that sign during the game. I'll be looking for it." The next hour felt like a whirlwind. Sarah guided them through the arena's premium entrance, where the floors were polished marble and the walls were lined with championship banners and historical photos. Maya had never been inside a professional sports arena before, and every detail amazed her. The soaring ceilings, the massive video screens, the buzz of anticipation that seemed to emanate from the very walls. Their seats were incredible, just a few rows behind the Warriors' bench, with a perfect view of the entire court. Maya could see every detail, the way the players moved during warm-ups, the intensity in their eyes, the precise choreography of their practice routines. But most importantly, she had a clear sightline to where Stephen Curry was going through his pre-game shooting routine. "Grandma, are we really here?" Maya asked, gripping Dorothy's hand as they settled into their seats. The leather chairs were more comfortable than any furniture they had at home, and each seat had a small side table with complimentary snacks and drinks. Dorothy squeezed her granddaughter's hand, her own eyes taking in the luxury surrounding them. "We're really here, baby girl. And you know what? You deserve this. You've been through so much, and you've stayed strong and kind and hopeful. Sometimes the universe has a way of rewarding people like you." As game time approached, the arena filled with 18,000 fans, creating a wall of sound that was both exhilarating and overwhelming. Maya held up her homemade sign, feeling a bit self-conscious among the professional banners and expensive merchandise around her, but remembering Steph's words about looking for it. During player introductions, when Stephen Curry's name was announced, the arena erupted in cheers. As he ran onto the court, acknowledging the crowd with his usual enthusiasm, his eyes scanned the family section until he found Maya. Even from the court, he could see her sign held high, and he pointed directly at her, causing the cameras to briefly focus on her beaming face. The game itself was extraordinary. Steph played with an energy and joy that seemed to lift the entire team. Every three-pointer he made, every assist he delivered, every defensive play he executed seemed to carry extra intensity. During timeouts, he would glance toward the family section, catching Maya's eye and seeing her excitement, which seemed to fuel his own performance. In the third quarter, with the Warriors building a substantial lead, something magical happened. During a timeout, Steph jogged over to the scorer's table near where Maya was sitting. The arena cameras followed him, broadcasting the moment to the entire audience. "Maya," he called out, loud enough for the surrounding fans to hear. "How am I doing so far?" Maya stood up, her sign still in hand, and shouted back, "You're amazing! This is the best birthday ever!" The crowd around them erupted in cheers, and the arena's jumbotron picked up the exchange, showing Maya's joyful face to all 18,000 fans in attendance. The crowd began singing "Happy Birthday" to her, a spontaneous celebration that brought tears to Dorothy's eyes and created a moment that would live in Maya's memory forever. The Warriors won the game decisively, 118-97, with Steph finishing with 35 points, 8 assists, and 6 three-pointers. But for Maya, the final score was secondary to the experience itself. The energy of the crowd, the skill of the players, and most importantly, the kindness of her hero who had turned her worst disappointment into her greatest joy. As the final buzzer sounded and the players began their post-game celebrations, Maya held her sign high one more time. Steph, despite being surrounded by teammates and media obligations, made sure to look in her direction one final time, pointing at her and mouthing "thank you" before disappearing into the tunnel. 3 months after that unforgettable night at Chase Center, Maya Johnson's life had transformed in ways that went far beyond a single basketball game. The experience had planted seeds that were now growing into something beautiful and lasting. It started with the basketball itself. The day after the game, Maya asked her grandmother if they could find a basketball hoop where she could practice. Dorothy, inspired by her granddaughter's renewed enthusiasm and touched by the kindness they'd experienced, reached out to their local community center in Oakland. The director, Mrs. Patricia Williams, had actually seen Maya on the news coverage of the game and was thrilled to help. "That little girl has been through more than most adults," Mrs. Williams told Dorothy during their first meeting. "If she wants to learn basketball, we're going to make sure she has every opportunity to do so." The community center didn't have much. Their gym was old, the hoops needed repair, and they were always struggling with funding. But what they lacked in resources, they made up for in heart. Mrs. Williams connected Maya with Coach Rodriguez, a former college player who volunteered his time to work with young players who couldn't afford private training. Maya threw herself into basketball with the same dedication she'd shown in everything else. Every day after school, she would walk the 6 blocks to the community center, her worn sneakers slapping against the pavement as she hurried to practice. Coach Rodriguez quickly noticed her work ethic and natural ability. "This kid has something special," he told Mrs. Williams after Maya's first week of training. "She's got the fundamentals down from watching so much basketball, and more importantly, she's got the heart. She reminds me of Steph Curry when he was young, maybe not the biggest or strongest, but absolutely relentless." Meanwhile, the story of Maya's birthday surprise had continued to spread. A local Oakland newspaper picked up the story, then a San Francisco television station. The narrative of a young girl whose dreams came true through an act of kindness resonated with people throughout the Bay Area. But Maya and Dorothy were careful not to let the attention go to their heads. "We're grateful for the blessing," Dorothy would tell reporters, "but we're not looking for handouts. Maya's working hard to earn everything she gets from here on out." That attitude caught the attention of several local business owners who had seen the coverage. A sports equipment store in downtown Oakland reached out, offering to provide Maya with proper basketball shoes and training gear. A local restaurant began sponsoring the community center's youth programs, specifically mentioning Maya's story as their inspiration. But the most significant change came from within Maya herself. The confidence she'd gained from meeting her hero, from being celebrated by 18,000 fans, from realizing that dreams could actually come true, began to show up in other areas of her life. Her grades, which had always been good, became excellent. She began speaking up more in class, volunteering for leadership roles, and encouraging other students who were facing their own challenges. Her English teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, noticed the transformation immediately. "Maya always had potential," she told Dorothy during a parent-teacher conference, "but something's changed. She carries herself differently now. She believes in herself in a way she didn't before." 6 months after the game, Maya received an unexpected package at her apartment. Inside was a Warriors jersey. Not just any jersey, but one personally signed by Stephen Curry with a message. "To Maya, my biggest fan and an inspiration to me. Keep working hard and chasing your dreams. Your friend, Steph." Along with the jersey was a letter explaining that Steph had been following her progress through the community center, which had connections to the Warriors' community outreach programs. He'd heard about her dedication to basketball, her improved grades, and her positive influence on other kids in the program. The letter continued, "Maya, I want you to know that meeting you changed something in me too. Your joy and determination reminded me why I love this game, and why it's important to use our platform to lift others up. I hope you'll continue working hard, not just at basketball, but at becoming the kind of person who makes the world better for others." By her 13th birthday, Maya had become a leader in her community center's youth program, helping younger kids learn basketball fundamentals and study skills. She'd also been selected for an elite youth basketball league that would give her the opportunity to play against top competition throughout Northern California. Dorothy watched her granddaughter's transformation with pride and amazement. The same girl who had cried outside the arena less than a year ago was now mentoring other children, maintaining a 4.0 GPA, and dreaming not just of playing basketball, but of using her eventual success to help other kids who faced the same challenges she'd overcome. "Grandma," Maya said, one evening as they walked home from the community center together, "do you think I'll ever be good enough to play college basketball?" Dorothy smiled, remembering the heartbroken 12-year-old who had sat crying on the concrete outside Chase Center. "Baby girl, I've learned that when you combine hard work with kindness, and when you never give up on your dreams, amazing things can happen. Look how far you've already come." As they reached their apartment building, Maya looked back toward the community center where she'd spent another evening working on her game and helping younger kids with their homework. In her backpack was her algebra homework, her signed Warriors jersey, and a letter she was writing to Stephen Curry, updating him on her progress and thanking him again for changing the trajectory of her life. But perhaps the most important thing Maya carried with her was the lesson she'd learned that night outside the arena, that sometimes, when everything seems darkest, when your dreams feel impossible, and when you're ready to give up, life has a way of surprising you. And more importantly, she'd learned that when you receive unexpected kindness, the best way to honor it is to pass it on to others. The girl who had once cried outside the arena had become a young woman determined to ensure that other kids wouldn't have to cry alone, that other dreams wouldn't go unnoticed, and that the kindness she'd received would ripple outward, creating opportunities for others. Just as one simple gesture had transformed her own life forever. Maya Johnson was no longer just Stephen Curry's biggest fan. She was becoming someone worthy of having fans of her own.